The next time you need a haircut, think of the barbershop with a grand tradition. Williams Barbershop. Williams Barbershop, proud to serve the entire community of Eufaula. Come by to our new location, new facilities, and see what it's like to be treated in style at Williams Barbershop in the old J.C. Penney catalog store. There is another choice for making funeral arrangements. Central Funeral Services, located in Eufaula and Louisville, Alabama. With one-of-a-kind staff, thrives on professionalism and meeting the unique needs of families with a wide variety of services. Owned and operated by the Mixon family. Call 687-1060 or 266-5261. Melissa Mixon Smith, licensed funeral director.
Welcome to Gumbo Live with L.C. Green. I'm here still at the house trying to recover a little bit, but I thought it was important enough for me to go on and do this second segment of Gumbo Live for 2015. I got good news. I talked to Miss Rachel Smith as of yesterday, and we're going to get our schedule together next week. I'm going to record her next week. She's still looking forward to coming on the show, and I'm still looking forward to having her. And I promise you that she would be my first guest for 2015. I also had a chance to talk to Mr. Stephen Bryan. Mr. Stephen Bryan is going to be one of my guests next week, week after. We're going to record him. I got a chance to talk to him, Mr. Stephen Bryan. I think he'd be a very interesting guest, and I told him to bring his sign that he had that got him put out of the city council. I am still trying to find. I'm talking to everybody who I know who's in authority, who should know, and I have not found any law or ordinance that said we cannot carry signs to city council meeting. I may be overlooking something, but I'm still in the process of doing that, and hopefully before I have Mr. Bryan on, I have a definitive answer about that. And if anybody knows, please call me and let me know that yes, there is an ordinance, yes, there is a sign, there is a law saying that we cannot express ourselves at city council. We already know we can't talk. Let me tell you about some things that I think is important that we talk about. I think that every American, every citizen, every concerned citizen ought to watch the movie Selma. I think you ought to watch that. And I think when you're watching it, that you need to understand that that's just not something that somebody in Hollywood just made up. That's not something somebody sit around and wrote and come up with an idea for a movie. I think that you really need to know that that's real life. That that's some things that happen. Now they saying that some of the scenes are not right about President Johnson and Dr. Martin Luther King relationship. That's a small thing. But what I looked at and what I look at what happened, and then I can remember growing up and times like this I wish I would write things down, because I remember back in my hometown. I remember people like Rufus Mayfield. I remember people like Mr. Dennis Ware. Arthur Conley, Lawrence Conley, Bull Dyes, and Thibodeau, and people like that. I remember those men those women, Mr. and Mrs. Gill, and I know there are some names that I'm missing, and I ask all of the young people back home, y'all go around some of these elderly folks and get some of these names of these fighters, people who refuse to be quiet, people who refuse to not be heard. They wouldn't let them serve on city council and stuff like that, but they kept fighting. They kept fighting, they kept fighting, and they kept fighting. And one of the things that they always, that I was always amazed by these men, and I thank God that I was able to hang around as a young lad with a lot of them. And they would always say, especially Mr. Ware, Mr. Dennis Ware would always say that he might not be able to benefit from his work, but his sons and those of us coming behind him would. And that was the whole thing. And that's what bothers me about this new generation we have. When you won't go vote, when you won't take a stand, when you won't speak out, when you allow people to hoodwink you, when you allow people to treat you like a second-class citizen, when you allow that to happen, that means that you don't appreciate who you are, you don't appreciate your history. And I want you to know, my brothers and sisters, that when you don't appreciate your history, when you don't appreciate who you are, nobody else will either. Nobody else will appreciate you either. And what the movie did, it really got me to looking at things that's happening right here in the city in which I live. Again, I want to say that this is not something that somebody just made up. This is not something somebody just wrote up. That this is real. This is history. This is real facts. The things that happen on Bloody Sunday. But and I look at it from a different perspective. First of all, let me say to the president of the local organization here that it's not about dividing this town. No, sir. It's not about dividing this town. You won't come on my program because you see I divide, but it's all about unifying the town. And one of the things that stands out clear, and when I view movies like Selma and from Selma to Montgomery and other movies like that deals with the civil rights era, it's all about power. It's all about power. And one of the things that people in power does is to silence you. It's all about power. It goes beyond race. It goes beyond that. And we need to be able to see that it goes beyond that. We need to be able to see that when we don't talk, that's what divides us. Talking brings us together, my dear brother. Talking brings us together. When people can sit down on both sides and talk, where we can feel each other's pain, we can hear each other's struggle. That's how we come together. We come together by talking. And it's all about if somebody wants to take power, the first thing that they must do, they must silence those who they want to take power from. The first thing you must do is that you must make those that you're trying to take the power from, make them quiet so they cannot make others aware of their flight. One of the things that happened, and if you look at that movie, one of the things that happened is when America heard the cry that was coming from Selma. I tell people all the time, and they don't want to hear it, but what made the civil rights movement successful, very successful, is that when others heard our cry, and it went beyond being black to being black, white, and all others. When everybody came together and demanded that everybody was heard, that's when the difference was made. So no. So civil rights movement and Selma It's not about separatism. And let me say this while I'm speaking, my brothers and sisters. We ought to not be afraid to sit down and have a conversation about race. We ought to not be afraid to sit down and have a conversation about race. And this is the beauty of it. When you have different races sitting down, having an intelligent conversation about race, you're gonna get a different view. You're gonna get a different view from it. You're gonna get a different view from it. Let's look at a few things. There's more racial hatred being spoken now than it has in a long, long time. I think that movie Selma, I think it's timely. I think it's timely. I think it's timely. Racism has taken a different face, but the conversation is still the same. The actions are still the same. It's all about power. It's all about men being able to tell you to shut up. Men being able to tell you that you can't go here and you can't go there. It's all about power. It's all about me and mine saying what we want to say. And if you notice, it's all about taking sides. It's not about compromising. It's not about coming together. It's all about taking sides. Therein lies the problem. The problem lies because you got folks who only thing they're trying to do is recruit folks to be on their side. They don't worry about if it's right or wrong, their stance. They don't worry about the effect that it's having on others. They will lie, they will do whatever they can to get folks, simply to get folks on their side. That's all they want to do is get folks on their side. And so it goes beyond what we really see. What we really see. If the Bible says that in order to take over your house, you got to bind the strong man. And the best way, now we live in an age with all kind of communication, man. There's everything. I'm talking all around the world by virtue of YouTube. I'm talking here in Eufaula by virtue of the local TV. There's all kind of forms of communication. So what folks try to do, they try to either shut you up or they try to not let you have access. Listen what Selma was all about. It was all about having access to the vote. They didn't want you to vote. They didn't want you to vote. They didn't want you to have access to the vote. Why? Because when you vote, that's your voice. That is your voice. And now what happens now that they see they can't stop you from voting, then now they try to influence how you vote. It's all about power. It's all about power. And then this is what happens when people are trying to influence people about how to vote. They divide us. They divide us. They take me and my friend and they say, well, you know, so-and-so, so-and-so. Whatever's going to take to divide us. See, well, let me tell you something. The enemy never stops. If the enemy can't beat you on this end, they'll do something on this end. So they can't stop us from voting. So what they do, they make you believe that your vote don't count. They make you believe that it doesn't make any difference for you to go vote. Don't go vote. And they've done everything they can to discourage us from voting. A lot of people are buying into it. A lot of people walking around right now in 2015 talking about they don't vote. A lot of people walking around in 2015 talking about their vote don't count. Watch the movie and see people being beat up and killed for the right to vote. So listen, if you're going to beat folks, if you're going to kill folks so they won't do that, then that tells you right there, it must be something to it. It must be something to this thing called voting. It must be something to this thing called voting. If it was, people wouldn't fight so hard for you not to do it. And we buy into it, y'all. We buy the least little thing they tell us, it makes us stay home and not vote. I think we ought to watch that movie. All of us. I'm not talking about just African Americans. I'm talking about every concerned citizen in America ought to watch it, because history has a way of repeating itself. And I hear people say, well, this will never happen again. Well, let me tell you from my view what made the 60s so terrible is that you had a lot of folks who said, well, it's wrong, man, I feel sorry for y'all, but they wouldn't do nothing. And they wouldn't say nothing. They'd tell you when they saw you. You know, I've seen them, man. I've seen people say, well, I ain't got nothing to do with it. I think it's wrong. I'm not a racist. But then you go home and close your door. And one of the things that happened at one of our city council meetings not too long ago, and we didn't like it, but the president of the council said, when you don't say nothing, then you're in agreement. He said that's what Robert Rules of Water said. He said that we had 2 nay votes and nobody else said nothing. So we had 2 nay votes. And listen to this. The way things work is that they don't want you to say nothing. And I could come back and argue, say I gave you a chance to say something, you didn't say nothing. So we voted and boom, me and my crony, we won. You see, but that's not and look, whether you like it or not, we can't argue that, because when you got an opportunity to say something, you ought to say something. That's why I'm against not being able to talk. That's why I'm against not being able to talk at our meetings, at our public meetings. I'm against not being able to talk at the city council. I'm against not being able to talk at the county commission. They say, well, you can talk, but you just got to write it down first. That's not America, man. That's a communist country that you write everything down, and Castro, whoever going to look at it, they look at it, or his staff look at it first, and we're not going to ask this question, no, we're not going to ask this question. Or you break the sunshine law. You get together and say, well, Green coming today, he's going to talk about this, that, how we going to handle this. No, that's not how you're supposed to do that. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You see, one of the things that you need to be very careful of, you need to be very careful of, you can't let a handful talk for the majority. You can't do that. You can't do that. You heard me talk about the political forum, and I think it's a joke, because when a person present themselves, when a person comes and say, I want you to vote for me, for whatever reason, but then you select the questions that you ask them. No, if you want me to vote for you, I should be able to ask you my own question. You may not think much of it, but that's your business. So let's look at a few things. Let's look at a few things. Let's look at a few things. I was reading the paper, the local paper. And they were talking about this issue with the 4-lane and some of the examples. You know, they had to give examples of the Civil War. And I thought that, I said, now, that's a shame when here we are in 2015 and we putting in the paper the greatest heroes that we can talk about. The way we can compare ourselves is to the Civil War. The Civil War. And they're saying that's what the trees and that's what the houses represent. Man, we represent the Civil War. And then the next letter was name calling. So here we are in 2015, and we left to talk about the Civil War or name calling. You know why that's all we got? Because we won't sit down and talk to one another. You know, that's what and then the third letter was supporting and uplifting the ones who are dividing us. Uplifting the ones who now George Wallace did what he did because he had supporters. the Sheriff Clark, and all the Bull Connor, and all those folks who were so nasty and so mean. They did it because there was always somebody telling them right on. People are getting away with stuff in this town, in this county, because there's other people supporting them. There was people in the newspaper, Lord knows who dictating and trying to run this city and this county and this state, trying to run it, trying to ram for our stuff down your throat. You don't do that. It's all about all of us coming together and being honest with one another. That's what it's about. And I think that's the problem. I think the problem is that nobody want to come and be honest, because people have told so many lies that they can't face each other now. That's one of the problems. And I told you that it's not about race, because one of the things you find out when you watch that movie, you had a large number of African Americans who didn't support Dr. Martin Luther King, and you got folks today who don't even believe in, don't know nothing about him, and radical. They got all kind of names for him in every race, and until we and that's some folks who I talk to, and I always say this, and until we can't challenge no other race until we get ourselves together. We got to be able to sit down with each other and talk to each other and stop lying. You know what I say this when you're talking about race, the other race ain't got to worry about us. We do a good job of destroying ourselves. All they got to do is just sit back. We do a good job of destroying ourselves. We do a good job of putting folks in position that's gonna keep us apart. We sell ourselves too cheap. So I just want to take time on Gumbo Live, and I'm trying. I always say that Gumbo Live would be informative and be fun, and I'm trying to find the fun in this. At this particular time, when you really get a chance to sit down and see what's going on, that is no fun. I've lost friends simply because there's misunderstanding, simply because there's lying going on, and that's not necessary. That's not necessary. That is not necessary. We need to really look at where we are and what we are doing. We really need to look at where we are and what we are doing, and see what it's going to be like in the long run. I got a grandbaby. I got a grandbaby, and I don't believe that my grandbaby ought to go through some of the things. She goes through none of the things that's going on now that we are going through. I just don't believe that. I just don't believe that. And I want to tell you something, my brothers and sisters, that you might not know, but this stuff stayed with you a long time. I know one of my beloved brothers said to me one day, he said, "We ought to just get over it." But I wish it was just that simple. I wish it was just that easy, just to get over it. I try to get people to understand, like Paul said, he got a thorn in his side. I wish my brothers would understand that. I wish they take it to the Lord. I've taken it to God. Take it to God on a regular basis, because it's just too heavy a burden to bear. But when things happen, you watch things as a child. You just can't wake up one morning and forget about it. And when you're on the giving end, it's easy to say that. It's easy to say that when you're about privilege, even though you may not realize it, even though you may not take advantage of it. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say you ought to get you some food when you got food and you're not hungry. It's easy to talk against hunger when you're full. But what am I talking? I'm talking about all of us coming together, sitting down on a regular basis before something happened. When something happened, man, we go all kind of different ways. Somebody go this way, somebody go this way, somebody go that way, and we just run wild. I thank God for a lot of people that has come in my life. I thank God for everybody that has come in my life, and people that we meet and people that we talk to. They shape us in some form or fashion. They shape us in some form or fashion. You know what I would love for another reason why I'd like for us to come together is that the young people need to know. Somebody need to tell them the history. I remember something simple. One day I went up to William Barbershop and I was talking to Jimmy Williams, and he was telling me the effect that his daddy had on all the barbers in the Eufaula area, you know, and I wanted the young folks to know. I wonder if you sit down with these young folks today who trying to make a living as a barber, and you can they call names of the pioneers? Can they call the names of the ones who had to fight? I remember growing up in my hometown in Paris. I had one black plumber license, and he had to fight to get that. He had to fight. He was good at his job, training a lot of people to be plumber. I remember the police department being integrated. I remember that. I remember black policemen not being able to arrest whites. I remember that. And it was all about power. That's what it was about. All about power. All about power. And if we're not very careful, in 2015, that same spirit is going to overtake us. That same spirit is going to overtake us, and we are going to sit back. And I'm talking to those who don't want to vote. Shame on you. I'm talking to those of you who are sitting back, not saying nothing. I'm talking to those of you who stand on the sideline and won't say nothing. That's what I'm talking to. That's where the danger lies. The danger ain't those who are speaking out. The danger is those who are not saying anything. The danger is those who refuse to go vote. People done got them convinced. You know, a man was telling me yesterday that, you know, a person who get paid to take people to the polls and get paid to go out there and campaign for somebody, and they don't vote themselves. It's foolish. That is absolutely. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you continue to watch Gumbo Live. I hope that you continue to watch Gumbo Live. I challenge this young generation. And let's don't talk hatred. A man was telling me that after his pastor saw Selma, how from the pulpit he was talking hatred and using racial terms and stuff. That's not what it's about. Dr. King didn't do that. And we can accomplish half as much as he did. But it's not about racial hatred. No sir, no ma'am. I'm not with you. I'm not with you. When you start talking about racial hatred, I'm not with you. I'm not with you. You're out there by yourself. When you start talking racial, you're by yourself. I'm not with you. But that's not what it is. That's just a smoke screen. That's just a smoke screen. Because people who are power hungry will lie on anybody. I don't care what race you are. People who are power hungry, people who want to control everything, they don't care about race. They don't care about your economical condition. No. There's a handful of folks who don't care about nothing but what they want. And nothing but what they want to do. They're the ones who are speaking out. And shame on us. All I say, for those of us who want unity, those of us who want the best in America, those of us who want the best in Alabama, Barber County, city of Eufaula, we're the ones who got to stand up, demand to be heard, We're the ones. We're the ones got to go to the meetings and say, no, I'm not going to be quiet. I listen to you, give you all the respect in the world. But I disagree with you. And I think that you ought to hear why I disagree. I think we ought to do that. I think we ought to do it for the sake of unity, for the sake of peace. No, and nothing I say, nothing I do. It's about dividing us. It's about dividing us. And if I got to sit down and listen to you talk about the Civil War, if I got to sit down and let you have a Civil War attitude, then you ought to hear me. You ought to hear how that affects me. And if you're not concerned, that's your business. But you ought to hear it. You ought to hear how your actions affect somebody else. You ought to hear how your conversation makes somebody else feel. You ought to hear that. You ought to have enough human decency inside of you to be concerned enough about how your conversation and how your actions affect others. I don't understand how another human being can hit another human being aside the head, or turn a dog, or turn water hoses on. Maybe you put your water hoses up. Maybe you have. Maybe you don't use your dog, but you sure ain't put them bullets up. And I know folks who don't even want to talk about compassion. I know folks who convince themselves that they in jobs and they in position where you're not supposed to have compassion. There's nowhere in the world we can live in this world and not have compassion one for another. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. This Gumbo Live, you're listening to it. I ask that those of you who are praying, that you keep on praying for me. I'm recovering now. Hopefully not too much longer. I'll be back up and around. Those of you who are happy that I ain't up and around, it won't be long. I will be. I'll be back up and around and getting back out. But I ask that you would keep on watching Gumbo Live and that you would tell somebody else about it. I always tell you that you have a chance to comment on anything that I say, anything that I do. It's very easy. You can leave your comments at the bread basket. And if you want to come on Gumbo Live to dispute something I said, you're welcome to come. You're welcome to come. I say it all the time, and my friend Jerome always called me and said, somebody's going to take you up on that. Well, I wouldn't say that if I didn't want you to take me up on it, because you're welcome to come on. I pay for Gumbo Live. Nobody pay for Gumbo Live but me. Nobody has anything to say about what's on Gumbo Live but me. And I can assure you, if you want to come on Gumbo Live, you got to come on like me now. You can't come on with a whole bunch of. You got to come on and talk from your heart and from your head. And you can say what you want to say, as long as it ain't no profanity. You can say what you want to say. And because I'm all about us hearing each other. I'm all about us talking. And as long as I got breath in my body, I'm all about getting people out to vote. I'm all about getting people out to vote. I've changed my strategy a little bit after talking to the people at the voter register. We got enough people registered. The problem we got is getting people out to vote. And to be wise with your vote. To be wise with your vote. Be wise with your vote. I believe in giving everybody a chance. And man, if I gave you a chance for 4 years, you ain't done that, no, come back to me for the next 4 years. Or 6 years, or whatever. And if you're doing your best, then the only thing left is to talk and say, listen, I try to get this done, I try to get this done, I try to get this done, I try to get this done. And let us know who's blocking you, who's hindering you. I always said if I was an elected official, I had other elected officials that wouldn't work with me. I tell the folks, I tell the voters, we could have got this done, but this person wouldn't do this. This person blocked this, and this person blocked that. But anyway, my brothers and sisters, I'm gonna stop now. I'm gonna stop now and get my program over to the production company so they can. Gumbo Live comes on every Tuesday night on Channel 97, here local TV, default TV, at 6:45 on Tuesday nights, and it'd be quickly thereafter it'll be on YouTube. Very quickly thereafter it's on YouTube, so that you can watch it wherever you are. And one of the things that watching the movie Selma has done is make me say thank you to our forefathers and foremothers, those of us who came before us and those of us who wasn't afraid, and those of us, the ones who demanded to be heard, and they wouldn't sit down when they told them to sit down. Thank you for not sitting down. And Rosa Parks, thank you for not getting up. Just because somebody tell you to sit down, you don't sit down when you got something to stand up for. And if you're sitting down and you got a reason to sit down, don't get up just because somebody tell you to get up. I want to thank all those who are still on the fight, who have not sold out, who have not cowed out, but they're still on the fight. And it's simple. I want to be heard. I want to be heard. I don't want you to bully me. I don't want you to push me around. Can't stop you from lying on me, but I can stop you from pushing me around. Threaten everybody. Well, we operate out of threats. We got folks in office, we got folks in positions, scared of their position. Somebody threaten, get rid of them, man. And all that kind of foolishness. Come on, man, that's not how we ought to live. We ought to live in peace and harmony. And the reason why, and you know, one of the things that I've seen, especially among us ministers, when we meet, man, when we started meeting, that made a big difference. Because we meet and we sit down at the table and we talk. And we talk and we talk. And some friendship, some genuine love has come out of the fact that we've sat down and we've talked and we poured our heart out and we looked at things from every aspect. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. You know, you say walk in somebody else's shoes. I'm not really sure you can walk in somebody else's shoes. So the next best thing is to walk on side of them. That way you can feel the ground that they're walking on, and you can see what they see. So anyway, Gumbo Live. Ms. Rachel Smith. Me and her going to the studio next week. Stephen Bryan is going to the studio next week. I still got some things that I want to do, some people who I want to interview, that we might be informative, that we might be informed, that we might be able to make. And I think that since it's 14, we got an election coming up in 16. Somebody gonna start announcing early that they're running for office and give us a chance to take a good look at them. And that's all I want to say. That's all I want us to do. I want us to take a good look at each other and listen to each other. Sit down at the table. Don't be in a rush. Let's sit down and talk as long as we need to talk, as often as we need to talk. I think that's one of the things that comes out of the movie itself. When people really start talking to each other, when people really start seeing something, that's unbelievable. I don't believe this happening like that. And they really start seeing, when they really start talking, when those who wouldn't be quiet, and thank God for people who won't be quiet, may seem foolish to others, but keep on. And all right, Gumbo Live with L.C. Green. Bless.
The next time you need a haircut, think of the barbershop with a grand tradition. Williams Barbershop. Williams Barbershop, proud to serve the entire community of Eufaula. Come by to our new location, new facilities, and see what it's like to be treated in style at Williams Barbershop in the old JCPenney catalog store. There is another choice for making funeral arrangements. Central Funeral Services, located in Eufaula and Louisville, Alabama, with one-of-a-kind staff, thrives on professionalism and meeting the unique needs of families with a wide variety of services. Owned and operated by the Mixon family. Call 687-1060 or 266-5261. Melissa Mixon Smith, licensed funeral director.